Hello guys, this is David Lazar for atootsplus.com and welcome to this very exciting tutorial. What we're gonna be doing today is we'll take this wallpaper and tear it to pieces so we can stick a new one, and in our case it'll be atootsplus logo. Well, we're not gonna work solely in After Effects, but we'll use Photoshop too, and mainly because these paper rips, because creating them in After Effects would be way much more harder. Alright, so open your Photoshop and load in the image you want to use. I'm using this wallpaper. I just showed my camera, but it's looking pretty decent. So we're gonna be slicing this wallpaper into 4 different pieces, and the origin will be somewhere in the middle. So take your lasso tool, start somewhere in the middle, and process down the page, and make sure the lines are not very straight, so it looks more real. I got a little small problem here. Alright. And you also don't want to have the pieces look like squares or something. Something happens, sorry. Don't make it like 1/4 of the page, but something more random. And if you're not happy with the result, you can always hold Shift and add to the selection. Or with Alt, you can subtract. Pretty decent. Now, Ctrl J, that'll duplicate the new slice into a new layer. And if you Ctrl click on the image of the new layer and then select the layer beneath it and just delete this, watch what happens. We got this thin line and we don't want that, so we undo the changes. And just before deleting it, we click Refine Edge. Make sure the contract expand is set to -100 and radius is set to 1 pixel. Now what it does is just that the selection expands sorry, it subtracts actually. So when we delete this, there is no line, because if I just lower the opacity and select it, you can see that the main image expands into this slice. Oh yeah, whatever. So we put it back up, and what we have is the first slice, and we can proceed. Now here is the completely sliced image. First, second, third, and fourth. And what we're gonna do now is these paper rips, as you can see here, and we're gonna do it the old way, drawing by hand, but it's not actually that hard as it sounds. So first, what we know that we wanna tear this piece first, yeah, and I was thinking like maybe we could tear the fur down, so it's not that linear. So we want to make sure that the layers are in order. They'll be torn. So we put this layer under the first one. So we like the first, second, third, and fourth. And yeah, you cannot. I left something here, and these pieces will actually stay on the screen, so it looks more believable. So what we also know that these two pieces don't actually need any of the rips because they just are gone before we can see any of the rips, right? So we don't have to worry about that, so we shut them off. And what we need to see the rips on these edges. These edges are 3 layers. We want to make sure that every rips belongs to its layer. So we create 3 new layers for each of them. One more, and put it every new layer put below the actual slice of the wallpaper. So first we'll work on the layer 3 or piece 3. So shut the other off and select the new layer. We can pick some brush that looks random enough. I don't know. Let's say this one looks pretty good. and pick some color that looks like a paper rip. So I pick this yellow. Alright. So, and simply start drawing the paper rip. It doesn't really have to look something cool, it's just a paper rip, right? When you have these, you can always pick the neighbor color and do something like this, so it looks more real. Yeah, that looks pretty decent. And when you're ready, just merge them. Merge these layers. Alright, so we got first piece, and you proceed to the other ones. What I have here is completed image. Let me just create a new layer, make it black so we see what we're doing. Alright, so we turn this one. I did a little better job on this paper. So we first tear this one, then this one, and this and this one. That looks pretty cool. So before saving it, just delete the black layer, and you can name your layers so it's so you can easily find them. Alright, just save them into PSD. Make sure it's a PSD, and hit OK. Alright, so there's a bit of a mess here, so let's create a new project. No. Create a new composition. This is gonna be our main. Import our wallpaper. Make sure it's set to composition. Drag it in. Let's open it and import our footage. Drag it also in. Let's just shut these off and let's play with the first hand. This is nothing too fancy, but it does the job. What you want to make sure when you're shooting in front of the green screen is that the footage is of a decent quality, of a decent resolution, because when it's not, keying out a green is much more harder, even if maybe impossible. Whatever. This is not at great quality, but it's sufficient. So what you want to add is the effect keying key light and pick out the green. You can see that there's some black and there's some yellow. So simply increase the screen gain until everything seems to be gone. Let's just check it out. Yep, looks pretty good. You can see that the brightness is tuned up too much, so we add effect color correction curves. I'm not gonna be doing the S curve, but something like this, and this basically brings down the contrast and increases the contrast, brings down the brightness, sorry, and increase the contrast, and that's just what you want. And maybe add color correction, hue and saturation, and bring down the masks of saturation and lightness a little bit. Let's duplicate this effect and set it to colorize, and the default color is great, so we'll leave it. The last effect, let's apply matte and simple choker. That's basically because of these harsh edges. So bring it up a little bit. I don't know, yeah, something about 3 is nice. Okay, now let's take all of our effects, Control C for copy, and paste it for all of our footage. Alright, now what you want to do is to animate the first piece so it looks like it's actually being torn. We're gonna do that by adding effect CC page turn. So let's just write page and add this effect to the on the footage. it does nothing in the beginning from the start, but it consists of two steps. First step is to find the exact keyframe where the hand is about to tear the paper. I think this is good. Yeah, this looks pretty good. So now let's keyframe the fold position and fold radius. Hit U so we can see the keyframes, and let's shut the layer off so we can see where is the start. First, let's place the fold position somewhere about here. Let's bring it back on and play with the fold direction so it tears the right direction. What we want to do is to have our paper be torn a little bit from the beginning, so it looks more real when a hand comes in. Oh, sorry. And tears it, so it looks something like this. We achieved it by not placing the fold position somewhere about here, which would just close it completely, but some more of here, so it's not completely closed. Alright, and sorry, we want to increase the size of our hand, so just scale it up. Oh yeah, I think this is good. And place the thumb in a place so it looks like it's about to tear it, right? Looks good. And let's play again with our paper. Skip about 2 seconds, or basically when the hand is gone, and place the fold position somewhere behind the scene. So the paper looks like it's being torn. And you can see that the back page of our paper is the same texture, and to change it, let's change back page to none and increase the opacity, and this basically place this color onto our back page, and I will change it to the color of these rips. This looks good, and maybe play with the like direction. Alright, so we got this nice shadow. And you can see that it's not timed well. The paper is too quick. And to change it, let's play with this value for the radius. I'll change it right from the beginning. So let's play with the radius. Alright. Skip a few frames, and let's change it again. Alright. Again, skip a few frames until it looks good. Alright. We got our first piece. You can see it doesn't go away completely, so we can just skip a few frames and increase the fold radius, or decrease until it's gone. Or you can simply put the fold position further away, but in our case it doesn't have to do that. Alright, it looks pretty good. Now, what is left to do is to just bring our other hand in, rotate it, scale it up, not that much, obviously, find the keyframe. Alright, and do the same, of course offset it so it doesn't come in the same moment. And let's play with the CC page then on other pieces. Okay, so here are completed footage, and you can see that I added a mask to this footage, and it's because there are background elements that couldn't be keyed out, and by simply adding a mask to this footage, only our hand is visible. So what I actually forgot to do is to add shadows to our hands, and that'll make our composition more believable. So let's add a drop shadow effect to, let's say, first hand, and let's get to the beginning of the footage and animate distance and softness keyframes, and let's make distance to about 60 and softness let's set to about 30. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And let's animate. Let's add a keyframe to the point where the hand is about to tear the paper, somewhere here. Alright, and let's set the distance to about 6 and softness to about 12. Okay. So this basically what it does is that it makes an impression that a hand is closing to the paper. And let's hit U so we can see them. And let's copy these first keyframes and pass it to the end of the animation. So when the hand tears the paper, it actually goes up a little bit and casts a bigger shadow. Alright, that looks pretty good. And let's set a direction, let's say to about 198 degrees. That looks pretty good. So select all our keyframes, Ctrl C, and paste it to all of our footage. And what you just need to do is to hit U and offset the keyframe so it fits to the footage. Alright, and since we rotated the footage, we need to offset the direction. Let's play with it a little bit, and this looks good. And do the same to the other hands. Offset the keyframes and the direction. Same with this. Alright, and the direction about here. Right, that looks pretty nice. And what is left is to add our last hand, so make it visible and offset it in the timeline. And this hand is named slap because it slaps from behind the camera into our footage and sticks the A Tuts Plus logo. So what do we need to do? Hit U. And offset the shadow again. Anyways, we don't know what we're doing because our paper is gone. So let's import a concrete, which will make a good background wall, and put it into our comp. Let's scale it up. Okay. You can see that there is some background element that casts shadow to our slap hand. So let's take the pen tool and let's create a mask around our hand. Okay, and the shadow is gone. That's good. And these two keyframes disappeared for some reason. So let's paste it. And maybe let's make them the distance to O, because the hand is supposed to be directly on the wall, right? And the softness, it doesn't matter. And the zero distance should be somewhere here. Alright, that's looking good. And yeah, import the A-Tits logo. And rotate it. And scale it down so it fits the hand. And we need to set keyframe the opacity, so hit T for opacity. And now what you have to do to create a keyframe, make it 0% of opacity, and make a new keyframe, and that'll be 100. So when the hand is off the screen, in actual there is no logo, then it appears after the hand is gone. That's what just we want, and that looks pretty good. Alright. Now, yeah. Yeah, I don't really like the color of the wallpaper, so what we're gonna do is to add some color correction to it. But first, let's pre-compose these wallpaper layers. Layer pre-compose, name it, I don't know, paper, and make sure move all attributes into the new composition is checked. And so let's open it and create a new adjustment layer and add effect color correction curves. And we're gonna do some S-curve this time, and it looks pretty nice. And the next effect, let's say it's gonna be hue and saturation, and break down the saturation. You know what, first let's colorize it and add some nice brown color. That looks good. Now duplicate the hue and saturation, uncheck the colorize and saturate it. Maybe add some lightness. Okay, this looks good. Alright, and this looks pretty good. And we also want to color correct the background wall. So let's copy the adjustment layer, paste it just below the just on top of the concrete, and let's play with this a little. Maybe change the color to something more light and bring the lightness a little bit, and saturation down. Alright. Okay, this looks pretty good. And what we may also want to do is to create, let's get to our main comp. Let's create a solid black and make it comp size, and create a mask, select the Eclipse tool and double click. And yeah, mask path. Anyways, take a pen tool, and let's say we want to invert the mask and feather it, and the mask expansion. Alright, maybe more feather. Or, yeah, definitely. Okay, this looks good. Maybe change the mask path. Control and hold. Alright, looking good. Maybe that's too much, so let's bring the opacity to about 60. Okay, and this is looking pretty good. Now, all what is left is to add sounds, but I'm not gonna go into that because it's quite easy. Just import these sounds, and you need to offset them in timeline so it fits what actually happened in the composition. But yeah, basically that's it. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. This is David Luzar for 8tutsplus.com, and we'll see each other in the next one.